Hello, super scientists. We're going to be learning about energy, and you talked about energy a little bit in 6th grade, so we're just kind of expanding upon that right now. So if you'll go ahead and look at your lab notebook. First thing is I want you to look at this sign. So this is a sign that I've seen out west on some of my dinosaur digs, and it's got a cute little dinosaur, and it's Sinclair Dino Gasoline Company. So why do you think there's a picture of a dinosaur on this sign? Ooh, what's your answer? We'll talk about it in just a minute. So what is energy? One of the definitions you learned last year when you were studying force and motion in physics in 7th grade was about energy. So energy is the ability to make things move or change. So it's the ability to do work. So we need energy in order to complete different tasks, to get things done, and we're going to talk about some of the different forms of energy. So there are two categories of energy resources, so natural resources from which energy might be generated, and energy that you might use for electricity to power your home, for example. So energy resources are going to be classified as renewable or non-renewable. Non-renewable energy resources are going to be resources from the environment that are going to be used much faster than they can be replaced. So non-renewable energy resources generally are going to take millions of years to be created, and then they're going to be consumed pretty frequently, and if it takes millions of years to create it, then you're not going to be able to replenish that. So it is a finite resource. That means once it's used, then you don't have any more of it. Renewable resources, however, can be infinite. They can be infinitely used. They can be replaced as fast as they're used, or it can't be used up. For example, you see wind turbines here. So those turbines, as the wind blows, will generate energy that can be used. So the wind is going to keep blowing. It's part of the earth and the atmospheric conditions. People must consider advantages and disadvantages of each energy resource when deciding which type of energy resource to use. So we're going to be doing a couple of activities that will help you in order to look at the advantages and disadvantages of each one of the different resources, whether it's renewable or non-renewable. So non-renewable energy resources are going to be fossil fuels primarily. So it's called fossil fuels. If you look at this picture down here, there's a T-Rex. So basically every time that you are putting gas into your car, that is using dead dinosaurs, which also might be why there was a picture of a dinosaur on the Sinclair Dino Gasoline Company sign we were just looking at earlier. So it might not necessarily always be dinosaurs, but can be decayed plants and animals. So a lot of times the plants are going to be from the Carboniferous period, which we'll talk about later when we study geologic time, but that basically is where you had a lot of plant life, a lot of rainforest type of climate across the world, and a lot of coal swamps. So you had a lot of these trees that end up decomposing and basically get smushed and liquefied into fuel. So there are 3 types of fossil fuels: coal, oil like petroleum, and natural gas. So those are your 3 types. Sometimes you have nuclear energy that is categorized as non-renewable, and that's because once uranium is mined, then you run out of it. You don't have any more of it. So coal is the first fossil fuel that we're looking at. So it is from a solid, and coal is a black substance like you see right here, and you see a pretty picture of a diamond. So basically over time, like the coal, as it's pressurized, can turn into diamonds. But you're not burning diamonds when you burn coal for fossil fuels. It's burning these chunks of coal, which can be really shiny and high quality bituminous coal, or can be really crumbly, poor quality coal. So it's burned in a lot of power plants. The heat is used to boil water to produce steam, and that helps turbines to spin at these power plants. So it's going to create this mechanical energy and then transfer that into electrical energy. Oil, the second type of fossil fuel, such as petroleum, is liquid. So it's a liquid fossil fuel. Sometimes it's referred to as crude oil, and it can be from ancient remains of dead organisms, dead plants or animals, sea organisms, dinosaurs we just talked about, plant material. And a couple different examples of oil or petroleum or gasoline, kerosene, propane, which you may be familiar with too, and diesel fuel. Natural gas is another example of a fossil fuel. It's used a lot of times in stoves, furnaces, water heaters, and appliances that you may have at your home. So some homes will use electric, and then other homes may use natural gas. So that's why I have a picture of a burner here at a stove, because it may be something you're familiar with. Natural gas can be burned in order to generate electricity. So that's what you see in the picture that's occurring here, just like coal and oil can be burned as well in power plants. There are some disadvantages and advantages of using fossil fuels. The main advantage of using fossil fuels is they produce a lot of energy, large amounts of energy. That's why the United States, the largest source of energy that we use currently is fossil fuels. However, there are a lot of disadvantages too. You may have heard of climate change or global warming. So global warming is just referring to the overall temperature of the Earth increasing in degrees over time. So one of the big disadvantages with burning fossil fuels is that it can lead to air pollution and can add more carbon dioxide to the atmosphere. So carbon dioxide is a naturally occurring substance. However, when it becomes rampant, when there is too much carbon dioxide that's being generated, then it will basically act like a blanket around the Earth to trap heat. So we know that the atmosphere around the Earth has lots of gases in it. It has oxygen that we breathe and nitrogen, lots of different things, but it becomes like a heat trapping blanket surrounding the Earth, and that will help to contain the carbon dioxide and not allow it to basically like expand into space or anything. So that contributes to global warming, and it's the biggest cause of global warming or climate change. Mining coal can also damage lands and can pollute water sources. And then oil is drilled. So oil is drilled from underground. And you may have heard of oil spills underground or oil spills at the bottom of the ocean. So that oil can then contaminate different habitats. So continuing with the disadvantages of fossil fuels, nuclear energy, which we were just talking about, is an example of a non-renewable energy source, because after you have mined the uranium and used that for fuel, you don't have any more uranium that is used. But sometimes you hear about nuclear power plants having like a nuclear meltdown. So that is one thing that's definitely harmful, because it can basically act like a mutagen and can mutate DNA of organisms that may be around. So an advantage is that nuclear power is not going to contribute a lot of air pollution, and it does not necessarily contribute to climate change since it's not releasing a lot of that rampant carbon dioxide. However, if there's a nuclear power meltdown, if you have an accident related to that, then it can cause radioactive material to be spilled into the environment, which is what the abbreviation is right there. And disposing of radioactive waste is tricky too, because sometimes you have these barrels like you see in the picture that may be metal containers, but the material inside of it may leach out from the barrel over time, and sometimes those barrels are stored underground. So if it's stored underground, then that means that it could contaminate the groundwater, which is the source of a lot of people's drinking water. Renewable energy sources, solar energy, so your STEM SOL refers to the sun. Solar energy is going to use photovoltaic cells. Ooh, big word. Photo means light, and volt is going to refer to electricity. Solar batteries, solar reflectors are going to be used at nighttime. So this is a solar panel, and you're starting to see a lot more of those around here. Other renewable energy source, wind. So those can't be put up a lot of places because you need an area, of course, that's going to be really windy in order for you to activate those. And it can harm animals that are flying around, like birds. Bats are another example. Hydropower, your stem hydro means water. Hydropower is sometimes referred to as hydroelectric or hydroelectric power. It's going to be near a large river. So if you don't have a large river and a dam like you see in this picture, then you're not going to be able to have hydropower. Biomass, what's your stem bio mean? Life. So biomass such as wood or plant materials, sometimes even waste, poop, like from a farm, that can be burned, and it can release carbon dioxide. And biomass, if it is something like wood that you have to chop down trees, if those trees are not replenished, then that can be considered non-renewable. But in most cases for biomass, the industries are going to replant those trees. And geothermal, the last one. So geo means Earth, and therm means heat. So geothermal energy is going to be over areas where you have hot springs or geysers, like geysers at Yellowstone, you may think of volcanically active areas. So that's why you have lava in this picture in the background. So if you don't have an area that has volcanic activity or an area with hot springs or geysers, then you're not going to be able to generate geothermal energy because you don't have a magma chamber underground. You don't have a lot of that heat source that's available. So you should have completed your energy notes. Thanks, guys.